That is a key thing in politics is name recognition. That's why you drive down a highway, you drive down the street, you see billboards and the yard signs and everything else is to help jog that name recognition. Security, they're like, no, you don't get to run and call security. No, you need to answer the question. And so it goes. It's a give and take relationship.
Hey, welcome to the Leadership Loading Podcast. I'm Jason McLaren.
I'm Randy Purham.
Hey, Randy, thank you for coming on the show. For those that have been fans of the show, Randy was our very first guest back in 2000 when we started this lowly podcast back in January of 2000. Randy's a good friend of mine. We went to school together, undergrad and graduate school. Great veteran, entrepreneur, politician. So I thought, it's October right now, October 2024. Thought it was a great chance to get him on the show and just pick his brain a little bit about leadership and what he's doing in his retirement. If you watch episode 1, you can go back to our cruddy production and the way we had it and see what Randy was doing back then and kind of where he's come from now. So Randy, welcome and thanks for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you for having me back. Yeah, I was sitting thinking about it, like, wow, that was a while back. And time flies when you're having fun, I guess, And so I appreciate reaching out and asking me to come back on. I figured at that time I was like, I'd never have him on again. He sucked.
No, I think as podcasters we always go with our friends first, right? We reach out to our friends and family, and like I said, you and I've been associated. I say friends. My wife would not call it a friend because she says friends are people you hang out with all the time, but it's kind of hard. You're up in Alaska, and
I'm actually in Texas now.
Oh, you're in Texas. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You moved recently.
Yeah.
See, that's
yeah.
The military. We never know where.
Yeah, during the last time I was on, yes, I was in Alaska. I was running for the U.S. House at that time. So after that exploded, I was like, let me hightail out of here and go somewhere a little warm. It's something a little bit more conducive to my bones, and so I came down to Texas. Yeah.
What part of Texas?
I'm in Austin, Texas. Yeah, the hub of craziness. So, but I love it. It's not too bad.
Well, let's jump into politics. I don't want to get too political or take up get too much into what's going. But for those, a lot of military people want to serve, and that's why we joined the military. Can you kind of give us like the 3 steps of hey, if I got out of the military and I'm like, I want to start in politics, where should I start?
Start local. And when I mean by local is, get involved at at the precinct level, become a precinct chairman. Precinct chairs, what they do is, because I'm a precinct chair too. So, but what you do is you're connecting with the neighbor, with your neighborhood, with your actual precinct, or you might say, some people might say district, but you're connecting with all the neighbors, the people, the residents in your district. And you're informing them on what's going on politically, who to vote for, where to vote, the dates of voting, because it varies in locations, because you have local elections that may be in an offset year from your federal elections and stuff like that. So we always hear, November 5th, but there's like a May 5th election for the mayor. There's early voting periods. And so you're getting ingrained with all that knowledge. So you're literally a walking encyclopedia of politics for your community. And so as a precinct chair, that's probably the most pinnacle and most important part of getting involved and getting started in politics. And then from there, you can work your way up and getting involved in different things. And being a precinct chair is an elected office. So you do, depending on where you're at, you do have to either be on the ballot or be voted in some kind of I guess you say county, what we call it, county executive committees. You get voted in one of those 2 fashions, and you go from there. And that would be my advice. The 1, 2, 3 of getting involved is start at the precinct level, and you go from there. You can decide, okay, I had enough of being a precinct chair. I'm ready to do something bigger, become a county party chairman, or you can be. I'm also on the state executive Republican committee, so I'm at the precinct level, county level, and at the state level. So is wearing multiple hats, doing different things. I'm part of a couple of different organizations as well. So you just get involved where you can, and time management is critical. So You just have fun with it.
Right. And I guess a lot of people that run for office either they're going to do it full time or they're retired. I can't imagine you can do this with a full time job, also, can you?
No, you can't. You honestly you can't. You know, you some people are able. You know, they may have, depending on what kind of job that they have, they may be a little bit flexible with being able to, you know, hold an elected position, and they may have a nighttime job or one of those jobs that's like a midday shift type of thing, and you can get away with it. Some can. But I would say I'm managing a congressional campaign right now as well, because I also do political consulting, so I manage campaigns or advise on campaigns depending on what they need. And I would advise you, if you have a full-time job, don't try to run for for office, because a lot of your events are in the evenings, and then, you know, early evenings, you know, like 5 6 p.m. and type of thing, and you're not getting off work until 5 6 p.m. So you got to either try to change or, you know, try to navigate through traffic to get there. It just doesn't work out. So that'd be my advice to those who are contemplating on running for office: quit your day job. So and get fully immersed into what you're trying to do next.
Definitely. And so I guess probably the best leadership thing in doing political service would be resilience, right? Building resilience. And I think
Yes,
it's very fast paced, and you have, I think most people just focus on the every 4 year elections, but you do have things almost every year that you could run for depending on what seats are open, right?
that's true. So if you're involved at the well, for you know, for federal and state, it just depends on where you at in the country. But the you're if you're heavily involved in politics, you're doing something, you know, heavy every year. So you got because you got the your House of Representatives and your state house seats are every 2 years. So that year before, they may be in session one year, but that next year or that fall, you know, they're gearing up for elections and everything else, and then you're going through that whole election cycle all over again for the following year. So you're constantly doing something, and yes, you got to be very resilient. You got to have thick skin. You gotta have some masterful time management skills, and being able to know when to give orders, know when to take orders. It just depending on where you fall in the total pole of things, you know, and being able to just say, okay, yeah, I'm a leader, I'm a CEO, I do this, I do that, but in this capacity, I need to dial back a little bit, let them take the lead, and I follow them, you know, in executing whatever strategy or whatever event that may be going on, and then you just reverse roles as necessary, and that's one of the key things about being a leader, is knowing when to lead and when to follow, and that in politics, that is the thing, you know, is knowing when to lead and when to follow, because just because you're a congressman doesn't mean you're no you're better than the constituency you represent. So you come back to your district, you expect to get chewed out, you know. And I have conversations with congressmen all the time, congresswomen, and I'm like, hey, you did this, you voted this way, that was screwed up. Why'd you do this? You need to explain that to me because I don't understand. And they're like, oh, security. They're like, no. You don't get to run and call security. No, you need to answer the question. You know, and so it goes. It's a give and take relationship. You know, being in politics. So yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I think that kind of goes into communication. I think
yeah,
this election cycle has been very on both ends on the communication spectrum. You've got some of the
hmm
candidates are very well enunciated and know, you know, what they're talking about, and some are kind of not, depending on
yeah,
what your political party is. I won't, like I said, we won't get into that, but so
right,
um,
yeah,
I'm great like this. You know, I can see you. We're talking. I'm great in person. I can stand in front of 200 people and teach a class or do a presentation. But you get me on just a phone where I can't see the person, I'm terrible. My wife says I'm
yeah.
terrible. She's like, you're a terrible phone person. So what kind of skills do we need? You know, not just political, but being a leader, you know, on the communication side. So I try to, you know, when I'm on the phone, I try to purposely like stand up,
Yeah.
walk around, smile, you know, so hopefully that comes through on my voice. What are other
Yeah,
skills we can use, you know, as we're trying to be leaders and communicate effectively?
yeah, absolutely, and that's a great thing to do. I was just going to say, carry, you know, when you're communicating with somebody, whether it's in person, over the phone, on a podcast, a video, a web, a Zoom call, or whatever, be yourself and be, you know, do what it is that you do all the time. Just because the medium of communication is different doesn't mean you have to be different. And you know, so I think that's important because you're staying to your authentic self, but you're also being comfortable and confident in who you are because you're not having to look for this different persona and hoping that you're starting to concentrate on that different persona, hoping that that comes across. You're delivering your message. You just stay the same person and go from there, and you'll be fine. Communicating it's we you hear oftentimes in communication it's this 80-20 thing. It's 80% message and 20% your posture, your attitude, and everything else. I say it's the reverse. It's 80% of who you are, what you're coming across in your confidence and your ability to not so much speak, but just your ability to know what it is that you're trying to convey. And that person will decipher and say, okay, that's what they meant. Okay, got it. This and that and the other, and that's the battle right there. So I say to stay who you are, no matter what the medium is. If you got to walk around, but it's a stationary setting, you might have to just get over that a little bit. But other than that, I think the inflection, the way you're communicating and what you're discussing is probably the most critical piece in that domain, that you just stay who you are.
I think also politics has you have a lot of strategy. Obviously, there's a lot of strategy. But how do you, you're a consultant, how do you keep your team, sorry, you guys are going through the election cycle or whatever. How do you keep the team motivated, especially if the polls are coming out and it's like, oh, we're down 10 points or whatever it is? How do you get that team?
Yeah.
And most of them are volunteer, right?
Yes, a
Yes.
majority of well, my team, we're pretty much all volunteers. They're it's self-motivating. Politics is a self-motivating tool in an industry to be in. So you either have the stomach for it or you don't. But those who get involved in the campaign, I'm in the campaign that I'm managing. Like I said, we're not going to win. And it's not because of who we are or what's our strategies or anything going into it. It's because of the dynamics of the district. The district is a deep, what we say in politics is a D plus 21, meaning that it heavily favors the other side by 21 points. So we know we're not going to win, but we're putting up a fight. Just anything can happen. Plane can crash and person, anything can happen. So you can end up winning. So we put up a fight, but you convey that out the gate to your team members, to the volunteers, saying, hey, we're not going to win this thing, but we're going to put up a fight. If you're staying on board and you want to ride this storm, hey, you're more than welcome. If not, thanks for coming and have a nice life, type of thing. And that goes back to the communication and being confident in your leadership abilities to let your team know when you're winning and when you're going to fail, and saying, okay, hey, it is what it is. This is we knew this going into this. What the charts looked like, what the polls were saying, but we decided to do it anyway. And show a presence, in the community type of, and so that conveys a lot to not only the volunteers but to the other side that you're competing against. They're saying, "Whoa, they know they finna lose and they still finna fight us." Like what? Who is behind this? Who is thinking about this stuff? And so that's the thing that in politics that you have to be able to I guess you could say grit through, is knowing that you're walking into a losing battle, and no matter what strategy you have, no matter what what your political acumen is, going in day one, this is not going to be a winnable situation, and you still go for it. Because like I say, you never know what can happen, and sometimes the results actually yield out better than what you thought initially it was going to be. So I say, just go for it. Sometimes, like I said, anything can happen. Election night could just up and die. So it's like by default you're a winner, because it's like, hey, there was no other candidate on the ballot, so it was just you. So there you go. Congratulations. See you in Washington. So yeah.
Right. And you're also building name recognition, even if
Right.
you
Yes.
don't win that district that time, or maybe you
Mhm.
move to a different district, or you go for a different seat or whatever. And it's kind of like
Yep.
the business strategy, like Costco. I think they lose money on their $1.25 hot dog deal, but they do it because they know it brings people in the door. And they said they've never changed the price.
Hey, own that, Jason. You're absolutely right. You said Costco, but Sam's Club. They kind of
Yes,
got
sir.
the same deal going on. I go to Sam's, and the first place I go to is the concession stand, and I get a hot dog because those beef franks, I love them. They kind of remind me of Chicago hot dogs, so that's the first place I go before I start shopping. I go to Sam's hungry just so I can get that hot dog. So you're absolutely right about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's I know I'm not a huge politics person, but I've been following the past couple of years, and there's a YouTuber that I know that ran from in South Texas, in the San Antonio area, and he was the same
Hmm.
way. He's putting up the fight, running against a guy that was I think what do they call it, not challenged for several years,
Yeah.
and
You're talking. I believe you're probably talking about the Brandon Herrera and Tony
yeah, yeah,
Gonzalez race.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's part of my district, my senatorial district on the SREC. That's my senatorial district. So yes, and I met Brandon Herrera at our state convention back in May, June, excuse me. And I was like, I said, "What are you doing?" He was like, "Well, I'm gonna try to win." I said, "Okay." You don't have a shot of a shot in the dark on that one, but okay, got you.
But
But
like
you're
on
right.
that one, at least they went to a runoff, right? Like at
Yeah,
least
they did.
that's, and
They
then
did.
so maybe next time, right? Or
Yep. Yeah,
if depending on
they
who
they
moves in
did.
and out of that district,
Hmm.
but now you've already got the name recognition.
You got the name recognition. That is
Or
the key thing. That is the key thing in politics is name recognition. That's why you drive down the highway, you're driving down the street, you see billboards and the yard signs and everything else is to help jog that name recognition. So when you go to the polls, you're like, okay, you're looking at the ballot and you're like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that name. And you check the box. It's just intuitively, you check that box. You may not know anything about that person, but you just check that box just because you saw that name 5 minutes ago, on your way to the polling place. And it is a strategy, and it does go a long way because you set yourself up for future endeavors that you may decide to get into, especially when it's geared around serving in the public eye. It's like, well, I ran for, this and people, I got this many votes, I got 30,000 votes, and this and the third. So you kind of help boost up your your own resume by being able to converse those kind of statistics to that next endeavor, and they're like, oh, 30,000 votes. That means he knows 30,000 people. And oh my God, well, what can I do for my company? You're hired. It's like, I ain't say I know them. I say I got votes. I ain't say I was bringing you 30,000 customers. Wait a minute, calm down. But yes, but it still works out that way. Hmm.
well, Randy, I know we always close out the episode with your leadership tip. What's your one piece of leadership advice for new leaders and upcoming leaders?
Yes, Jason, and once again, thank you for having me on. I truly appreciate it. I would say, if you're coming out of because we was just talking about at the top of the hour here about coming out of the military and deciding to get into politics, and that's exactly what I did. You don't exactly find, I guess you'll say, that transition that happens that often. Especially when you're going through like the TAP program or ACAP and all whatever it is nowadays they call it. But when you're going through those classes in the military and you're trying to figure out whether or not what you want to get into next, and you want to get into politics, or you coming out of school and you got a political science degree or some kind of governmental relations degree, and you want to get into this domain, the one thing I would say is just know that going into this industry, I'll call it that, because politics it runs the gambit of different things that you can do in it. Just know that you're not going to always find your success right out the gate, the day one job. You're not going to find success immediately, and that's okay because within that domain, you will be successful when you fail. And that's the beautiful thing about politics, just like we were just mentioning about, building name recognition, although you lose, your race, you build a name recognition and you're in there and they say, well, he worked at this firm and he did this, and now he went out and he branched out and he's doing his own thing, running his own firm, and he's doing great. So it I would just say, you just whatever you decide to get into in the political arena, stick to it because it's not always going to be a win-win. It could be a lose-lose, but you still end up winning. So that's my advice to everybody.
Definitely. And you're on LinkedIn. If people can get a
I
hold of you
am.
there.
Yes, I am on LinkedIn. R Perham, after the LinkedIn.com/li or li/R Perham. I'm on all social media platforms at R Perham. That's RPURHAM. So you can find me, connect me with wherever your favorite platform is. I'm on all of them. That's popular. X, Facebook. On Facebook, I got kicked off of Facebook in December. So I am now Randy Perham number three, the third. So it's Randy Perham the third. It's not it's not none of my kids or anything like that. That's actually me, my third page, because I keep getting kicked off of Facebook. So that's where I'm at on Facebook now. But Instagram and everything else is still at R Perham.
Once again, Randy, thanks for coming on the show, and we'll talk to you
Absolutely.
next time.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks again. Thanks. Good seeing you again.
There are thousands of leadership and management podcasts to choose from. We're glad you chose the Leadership Loading Podcast, a Go Heroes production. If you'd like to support Go Heroes Inc., visit www.goheroes.org. And with that, it's time to wrap up today's show. Thank you so much for listening. We sincerely hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Let's all grow together. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Loading Podcast. Leadership